Kahai na Hawaii, lo kahi aku like, olu olu kamana'o, ha'a ha'a kokulana, honui alana kila, aloha e, aloha e, aloha e. Thank you. Well, aloha. Aloha kakahiaka. Good morning to you. And what a beautiful sunny morning it is. Looks like we are really getting ready to roll into summer with great glee. And I want to say mahalo to you. You look glorious in your Hawaiian attire, your colorful garments, your leis. Everyone just looks like you're ready for the luau to begin. Let me ask you, how many in here have ever been to Hawaii? Aha, I'm not surprised. How many are hoping to go or planning to go? And do any of you have connections, people, friends who live in Hawaii, perhaps family in Hawaii? I know that our Bob over there told me a couple of weeks ago that his mother was born in Hawaii. So even though he was raised in what I call one of those cold northern states, he knows a lot about the culture and the beauty of Hawaii. I have found that many of the residents on the West Coast, as well as the Western states, have close ties to Hawaii. They've either visited, as you saw, how many hands went up. They've lived there. Some visit several times throughout the years. It becomes their home away from home. And there are plenty of reasons, because it is such a plethora of beauty with the weather, the sea, the surf, the sand, the beaches. Did I mention the sunsets? And of course, the culture, the traditions of Hawaii are so powerful, so ancient, and so beautiful. And the spirit of aloha is shared so beautifully and openly, and not just shared at luau's and at those kinds of tourist events, but shared in everyday life. People sharing their mana, their energy with you. Helping share some of that aloha. I believe partly there's some hope there that you'll take, any visitors will take some of that back to their homes and spread it around a little bit. When I first went to Maui, I was filling in for a minister who had been delayed in her arrival. She had a health challenge, and she needed to get that all in order before she proceeded to Maui. When I flew in, imagine my surprise that my plane arrived 45 minutes early. I had never had that experience in my life. So I got my bag, I went out, I sat on a planter, and I just watched. And I became absolutely mesmerized by the view of the West Maui Mountains and the palm trees swaying in the breeze, and the aroma of the islands just filled my heart and soul immediately. And I believe I could almost hear those trade winds saying, "We've been waiting for you." And I felt as well that they enveloped me in their warm and welcoming embrace. And it was some magic happening. I wanted to ask you, because so many have visited, actually, because Hazel is so up on everything, she sort of put this out there already, but I'm going to ask you, do many of you know what you have ideas about what aloha means? Share some with me. I know she shared a couple, but anything else? Peace, that's right. People don't usually think of that, because that is definitely one of the many, many other meanings. Yes? Exactly. Hello and goodbye and love. And when I first arrived on Maui, those were the meanings that I most related with. That's really all I knew about it. But while I was there, I became immediately fascinated by the culture, by the aspects of the culture, the hula, the chanting. And I wanted to incorporate some local information, events, cultural practices that were going on with my congregants. And so I tried to take a little bit of a dive into things. But the first thing I did was look up aloha. And it was very interesting because I looked it up in what I'd consider a traditional English dictionary, and it said, hello, goodbye, and love. Then my friends that I was staying with had a Hawaiian English dictionary, and it had 26 different words that equated with aloha. And then I learned very quickly that if you add one or a few more words to it, the meanings are exponential. So what that tells me is that the word and the spirit of aloha are infused completely throughout the language as well as the culture, as well as the lifestyle, as well as the loving expression of respect and honor and courtesy to one another. So I came to the decision that aloha was just so much more than word. It was the essence of the islands, the essence of the people, the way that things went down in Hawaii, and the way that people shared in such beautiful and magnanimous ways. What really emerges from living aloha, and when you embrace it, you are being permeated with that spirit, permeated with that love, permeated with that essence of sharing. And, it's very powerful, and people do carry it back with them. And I actually heard a kapuna, a Hawaiian elder, state that we are all Hawaiian. It just takes longer for some of us to figure it out. Now, the simplest meaning of the word aloha, alo, means presence. Not like presents you give, but like the presence, and its front and face. And ha is the breath, which is meant to be the divine breath, the breath of life. That breath is what works through us and gives us life. And there is one aspect of aloha that is an ancient tradition of greeting, and it's called tuhoni. And as Hazel comes up for us to demonstrate, I'll just tell you what that is. For those that you are greeting and they're truly honored and loved and esteemed by you, this is a sign of respect in your greeting. And the two parties come together and touch their foreheads together and touch their noses together, keeping their gaze into each other's eyes, and then breathe through their noses. And what they're doing is connecting third eye level, visually eyes, and through their breath of life. I'm sharing my divine breath with someone and acknowledging her divine breath as she shares that with me. It's very centering, it's very powerful, and you can feel the exchange of the mana of the breath. Other powerful expressions of aloha are oli, which is chant, which I did coming in, song, which is mele, and also, of course, the hula, the dances of Hawaii. All of them tell storage of the history of the islands, the lineage of the different family lines, the royalty, the stories, all that historically going back way beyond when there was anything written in the islands. And they also, of course, are constantly being written by new kumuhulas, masters of hula, and songwriters there. And they always incorporate the beauty of life, really all of the beauty of life. As I mentioned, lineage, history, events, but also the seas, all that exists in the seas, the land, the animals of the land and the sky. And it's a blessing and a recognition of gratitude for all that is, and also that it's all part of us. We're all one on this planet Earth, this schoolroom that we call Earth. And when I learned more and more about Aloha, I thought this just is so in keeping with the teachings of Science of Mind, with the writings of Ernest Holmes. And of course, he studied throughout the world, and he studied various Hawaiian traditions, European traditions, Indian traditions. And he tried to garner the best of the best and bring it together in a philosophy for the West that could be palatable, understandable, and we could be proactive with it. We could use spiritual mind treatment, affirmative prayer, to help create the life, co-creating the life we really want to experience. So I would like to share with you a little bit deeper meaning. First, I'll see, oh, there goes those beautiful palm trees and those rainbows. Did you know that Aloha is incorporated into Hawaiian law? No, neither did I. Didn't used to know that, but in fact, what we're going to have up here next is your handout on Aloha, and it's actually incorporated in it. But I couldn't cut this down. I'm reading this because this is out of the law, and I want you to listen to this and say, wow, this is in a state constitution. I would venture a guess that none of us have heard anything like this in our state constitution. But I think this will help you really embrace what Aloha is all about. It states, the Aloha Spirit is the coordination of mind and heart within each person. It brings each person to the self. Each person must think and emote good feelings to one another. In the contemplation and presence of the life force, Aloha, the following may be used. And that's where, oh, there's that license plate I told you. Did I not tell them about all the license plate? When I was talking about rainbows, let me backtrack. The other thing I noticed at the airport with all those cars, not only the rainbows in the skies, but the Hawaiian license plate is a plain white background with a full rainbow arc on it. So I had landed in the state of rainbows and the rainbow center of the world, I am told, and I was very happy to be there. And after a while, I also realized that rainbows and Hawaii had woven themselves into the fabric of my life since childhood. So it was really a blessing, the time that I spent there. So now if we can put up the Aloha, there we go. So before we go through this, I'm going to have you go through that with me. But I wanted to mention that the rest, after this is shown in the law, the text of the law, it states, these are the traits of character that express the charm, warmth, and sincerity of Hawaii's people. It was the working philosophy of Native Hawaiians and was presented as a gift to the people of Hawaii. Aloha is more than a word or a greeting or farewell or a salutation. Aloha means mutual regard and affection and extends warm and caring love with no obligation in return, no expectation of what is to come back. Aloha is the essence of relationships in which each person is important to every other person for collective existence. I love that sentence. Each of us is important, and we're important to every other person for our collective existence. Aloha means to hear what is not said, to see what cannot be seen, and to know the unknowable. How deep is that? That's in the state constitution. And the words up here, I just wanted to give a little intro to. Auntie Pilahi Paki was a beloved native Hawaiian poet and philosopher and educator, a spiritual guide, an author, and one of the holders of Hawaii's secrets. Over the years, she transmitted the sacred knowledge of ancient Hawaii. This meaning came to her very mystically and suddenly just spelled out what aloha characteristics were, what they really meant. And it was with her involvement that they decided to incorporate not just this section, but this whole point that I read into the Constitution of Hawaii. So let's just look at these. Oh, I can't walk over there. So we have aloha. A is for akahai, which means kindness to be expressed with tenderness. This is the chant I came in with. L is for lokahi, meaning unity, to be expressed with harmony, being together, working together. Olu olu, meaning agreeable, to be expressed with pleasantness, being nice to one another, letting that kind and loving and nice nature of us come through, because that's who we really are. Ha'a means humility, to be expressed with modesty. And A for ahonui, meaning patience, to be expressed with perseverance. You know, we do have to persevere with patience, because sometimes it's not that easy. But if we make our minds up, it becomes a quality that is easier all the time, just like forgiveness. Once we know the beauty of it, the power of it, how it liberates us, it becomes a natural part of our persona. She also made another statement, and I love this. It kind of ties in with everyone being Hawaiian in the big picture. She said that the world would eventually look to Hawaii for the key to world peace, and that world peace was, what do you think? Aloha. Can you imagine if we worked with these tenets, and the additional setting forth of the meanings, if we worked at that individually and collectively and through our governments over this planet, couldn't we imagine it being a different kind of world right now? And I imagine that all the time. I want to share that Hawaii is having a very good year. I've got a few things that have been in the news lately, and you may or may not have caught them. They did make some local news, some of them, but I also get a Hawaiian news stream, so I may get a little bit more than you might get on the evening news. One is, just recently, 18-year-old Hawaiian Iam Tongi won American Idol. And his sweet vocals as he played the ukulele, his gentle, friendly nature, and the way he embraced his cultural roots won the hearts of his fellow competitors, of the judges, and of the collective audience. And he has such a sweet nature. I don't know if you're aware, many are aware of the song that is a mashup, What a Wonderful World and Over the Rainbow by Brother Is, Israel Kamakaviva Ole, commonly called Brother Is. But this young man reminds me of Is. His voice is different, I will say. Israel's voice was like an angel. This young man has a sweet, perfect pitch, lovely voice, though. And his mana and his expression of who he is and how he is as a Hawaiian just beam forth from him with love, with talent, with compassion. Every time they showed a little side reel, he was hugging somebody, giving them a lei, smiling. It was just a beautiful thing to see. Just one last little observation. His name is Iam, I-A-M, like Mary. I'd never heard it that way. I'm used to Ian, I-A-N, like Nancy. But then I looked at it and went, ooh, that's I am. Just an observation, but I'd say he certainly is. And one last thing, points to Aloha again. He returned home after finding out that he was in one of the final 3 contestants. And in that time, he did a free concert for his community. And during that concert, the concert goers were surprised by a helicopter overhead who dropped thousands of fragrant plumeria blossoms onto the crowd. That's Aloha. And there was some Hawaiian pride going on there too. So, number 2, in March of this year, a new quarter was released by the U.S. Mint, and it features a legendary kumu hula, a master of hula. She's a composer as well as a cultural leader named Edith Kanakaole. She was known as Auntie Edith, and she helped revive the Hawaiian language, hula, and chant. She was a key player and an activist for her culture for years. And she's the first woman to grace a U.S. quarter. And that was quite a celebration there as well. I'm going to skip a little, being mindful of time. I'm going to say finally, the winner of RuPaul's Drag Race this year was a transgender, stunning Sasha Colby. She was the first Native Hawaiian contestant and winner. And as someone who has watched several previous seasons, I feel that Sasha exhibited a kinder, gentler way to compete. And I think it was the island girl shining through. In closing, I'd like to reiterate that while the word aloha and the Aloha Spirit have multiple meanings, I think that at the core of it is clearly that 4-letter word of love, because all those other elements spring forth from love. And I also love and appreciate the inclusivity and the diversity of Hawaii. I first moved there as a Caucasian woman from Orange County, California, and I was definitely a minority race, and I loved it. I learned so much and discovered so much beauty of cultures and foods and customs. It was magnificent. I'm also proud of our spiritual tradition in the Science of Mind centers, our centers for spiritual living. It is inclusion, welcome, and diversity, and it celebrates the individuality of all beings. And on that note, a final nod to my attachment to rainbows. This is Pride Month, and I would just like to say happy Pride to everyone in the LGBTQIA+ community, their families, their friends, and their allies. Life is all about love, and the Center for Spiritual Living affirmation today is, I mindfully fill my cup with the love of who I am. So I invite you right now to fill your cup with the abundant love of who you are. And remember, it's important that you share it. Share it with all of humanity, because it's needed now, perhaps more than ever. Give it that extra love. I promise you, you will not run out. You will be constantly replenished to overflowing. And our founder, Ernest Holmes, said, love is the eternal flame of the universe, nay, the very flame itself. So I would just like to say, give yourself to love, give yourself to aloha, let it move through your being. Maybe someone close to you, you'll teach them about Honi when you get home. And I will now say mahalo, thank you for having me here, aloha, and a hui hou, until the next time. I'm going to anchor that now for us, beginning by we're going to do a little 1-minute meditative moment on aloha, and I will then wrap it right into a treatment. So, aloha is.
The sun will shine again, bringing fresh hopes and dreams with each new day that begins. Aloha is the sunlight shining darkness, giving strength to all we do.
And we know that there is one perfect presence in the universe, one power, one creative essence, which we call God, or Goddess, or Buddha. The name does not matter. We just know that that presence exists, works through, and animates us, guides us, protects us, loves us always, and we exist within the being of that presence. And in this moment, I invite us each to let the Aloha Spirit sink a little deeper into our nature. Let us look for the beauty in every aspect of life. Let us share that beauty through our smile, through our touch, through our hug, with all those with whom we come in contact. And know that God is always within us, always available to us, always guiding, always protecting, always prospering, always loving. And I release this knowing into the perfect activity of the God mind, knowing that it is true. And as we claim it, it responds to us in perfect right action in this very moment. And so I ask you to anchor this and join me by saying, and so it is.